The best strategies to buy real estate in times like these. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to have a great class tonight. This is near the end of April in the year 2020, and the COVID-19 virus is frightening everybody around, including the lenders, the investors, and many of you. So the question is, what is the best strategies to buy real estate like this? Or do you just wait and do nothing? Well, let me give you the coach's perspective. And so this is our class tonight, and it is in preparation. It is preparing us mentally, because first you got to believe that what you're going to do. You got to imagine it, you got to believe it, you got to accept it, and you got to pursue it. So these are great times in reality to buy under the right strategies. And here's why. Number one, it's challenging times. They have created low interest rates. Now, that's very interesting because the Fed rates are at lowest they have ever been in history. They're almost zero. However, the lenders initially lowered the interest rates, and then they increased the interest rates suddenly. Now, why would they do such a thing? Because they lowered the interest rates because the Fed rates, they were following the trend, but they suddenly increased the interest rates because of the risk environment. The private bankers have to sell the paper, and who's going to buy the paper in uncertainty? If people can't pay their rent, they're going to go into default. Here you have mortgagors calling in asking for relief, and at the same time, you're going to have these originators calling the mortgage investors and asking them to buy more paper. Well, that doesn't fit too well. But the Feds, on the other hand, think about it. They're trying to stimulate the economy. So FHA, the Fed window, the CDFIs, they are lowering the interest rates because it's a great time for the Feds to borrow. They could borrow trillions of dollars and hardly have no interest costs whatsoever. As a matter of fact, in some cases, you could have a negative interest. That means people will give the Feds money and they'll pay the Feds to hold the money rather than the Feds pay them. So right now, the U.S. borrowing cost is very, very small for the Feds, and it's very, very small for the right lenders. So one of the things, you got to have the right lenders. And there's great buoyancy in the marketplace as far as the lenders. Those that have federal insurance is low, those that don't, you probably have a variety of different rates. But anything that's kind of attached to Feds, you'll find the low rate. So that's who you want your borrower to be. Many people are unable to pay rent. So, properties which have depreciated values. Now that's very interesting because people that are working, they can't pay rent, but certain people can pay rent. And you know who those people might be, and we'll get into that in a minute. But property values have been depreciated. That means that the cap rates are increased. That means the price is higher. People say, well, you can look at it two ways. The net income could be lower because the vacancy and collection has increased. So that would make the net income lower. And even if you use the same cap rate, the price is lower. Or cap rates have increased because of the risk. The risk and also the interest rates could increase the cap rate. But in any event, it boils down to, under the right circumstances, prices have just been lowered psychologically. Prices are lower. Government-related lenders are motivated to lend, as I indicated to you. So what's the bottom line, class? This is a buyer's market. Now, there are three kinds of people right now, or three categories. And the question is, what category do you fit in? Those that are afraid and they will do nothing. Or they'll sell their assets. And you always have that. Those are the people that jump off the bridge immediately. They're scared. If you've been negotiating with them, they say, oh man, this is gonna go down. They'll sell cheaper. And they're those who are just uncertain and they don't know what to do. I don't know, man. Whew, I'm not sure, I'm not going to sell, I'm not going to buy. I'm just kind of in the middle. I just don't know what to do. They're kind of holding their hand and praying, and they don't know what to do. And the large majority of people will fit in that category. They just don't know what to do. And then there are you, my students, the optimists, who understand that this is your time to become wealthy with proper goals. With proper goals. Well, what are the goals? And as you see, what are the first steps for those that believe after you join Strather online? Now, of course, for those of you who are listening here are mostly already on Strather online because you're students, and this is a class that we're having. This is a mental preparation. So I want you to take this time and refigure your legacy and your financial goals. Write down your goals. And each of us have different goals that are more important in life. When we're younger, we may have a social goal and a family goal. When we get older, we have a legacy goal because we realize that our time on earth is not forever. And we want to write it down so we can leave something very valuable here on earth for future generations, for our family, and for others. I have a goal to help people to take the knowledge that God has given me and to share it. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I'm at the top of my game right now. I really, really love it, to hold your hand when you close. And it's very important that I teach you to do it. I know how to do it. I've done it hundreds of times. And I got to show you, if I turn around and just put a deal together for you, and you bought a real estate like I'm a broker and that's it, and you're not participating in the discussions and the negotiations and figuring out the numbers, well, what good is that? You know what I mean? You bought a deal. You went to a broker. I'm a broker. I ran the numbers, sold you on the numbers, sold the seller, got the financing, arranged the financing, and did it. Now, you would learn something. But if you went out and found that deal, you understand, and we did the underwriting, and I told you to do the performing, your underwriting, you gave it back to me, that's something. So my legacy here is to help you, to give you the tools, not to feed you, but to give you the tools to catch your own fish. You understand? Now I'll help you there when you're fishing. We're going to help. And then you write down your financial goals. And if it's not in writing, then it's not a goal. It is not a goal. As far as I'm concerned, it has to be in writing. Because once you put it in writing, they come alive. So other than that, it's a thought. It's a very wishful thought. But once you absolutely put it in writing, it's different than a thought. Think about it. It's in writing. A thought is in your mind. If it's in writing, it comes out of your mind and it's on a piece of paper, and now it becomes alive. So write it out. And let me encourage you this. To go for the bottom line. As I'm reaching out for you, we certainly have a great value proposition. The knowledge that I am giving out probably have a retail value of 10 times what you pay, of what you've paid, or what you would be paying 10 times. Just look at it. People may charge $30,000 to $50,000 to teach you how to go flip a house. Go figure, you know what I mean? My skill level is far above flipping houses. It is about leveraging, buying income property, buying apartment buildings. So you have a stable income. Wouldn't it be great to have a nice cash flow right now in these times? And you say, Herb, maybe so, maybe not, if they're going to pay rent. I'm talking about a nice cash flow, a stable cash flow, and we'll talk about that. So we're talking about creating a cash flow stream that you can keep. And once you get an apartment building, you really never have to sell it. You pay it off, refinance it, pay it off, refinance it. It's a wonderful thing. Go for the bottom line, though. This is the time to help others and create wealth. Remember this one thing. You can get anything out of life you want if you're willing to help enough other people get what they want. So the bottom line now is to help others. God is calling on us to help our fellow people.
Yes.
That's what our responsibility is now. Can't you hear this voice right now? And even during these challenging times, you're seeing the best of America. Did you see it? There was a doctor who got who caught the virus, and he came out, and he was putting on his mask, and he says he's going back in the hospital. He says he was born for this, and he says he's not afraid. He said he's standing on the shoulder of giants, and he said he worked next to the most incredible people in the world. He said he'll die for them. He said, I'm coming. This is what I was born for. Now, isn't that a hell of a thing to do?
It is.
And you see all the nurses and the medical people with their life on the line.
Yes.
They said, this is what I was born to do. And I'm going if it takes my life. You know something, class? We're going to die anyway. We're not getting out of this deal alive. So the most important thing is to give it all we got, because we're not getting out of this deal alive. So determine your goal. Help others. Create wealth. So determine your role. Determine what your role is going to be. Are you going to be, you want to be a landlord? That's great. Landlord or lessor is the same thing. Or sublessor. Or leasee or subleasee. Are you going to be a developer? Are you going to be a service provider? You know, what are the strategies to accomplish wealth in such an environment? What is it that you're going to do? Now, let's put it like this. I can tell you one thing that's very challenging that I would not tell you to do. I would not buy marginal properties in marginal areas. I can tell you that right now. And you say, hey, Mr. Strather, what do you think about this? I said, where's it located? And you give me an address that's in a low-income environment and there's no Section 8, there's nothing, just because you can buy it cheap, I would say no. I would not allow you to do it. I mean, I can't force you not to do it, but you wouldn't have my support to do it. You'd be on your own that time, you understand? I'm gonna give you the very best advice I possibly can. Let's just talk about it a little bit more exciting. This way you won't get ahead of me and run ahead of me. How's that? So, first, you got to identify the target market. What target markets are you going to go after? There are about 5 of them that I would like to suggest for you to consider. One is people that's been, the target markets are people that's been disenfranchised and need help, or to offer your services to help people that may not be mainstream, that may be lower income or retired or something like that. For example, ex-felons opportunities and retooling. You can offer your services there. You can offer it as a landlord. You can own the property and you can rent it to a service provider that will house the ex-felons and help them to re-enter society, or you could become a service provider yourself. That's a wonderful thing. I got to tell you something. The per diem rate is pretty good. Now, when we say per diem, we're talking about the amount of money that you would be paid to host one of them. That means that you would have a housing facility. Let's say if you had a 2-flat that was 3 bedrooms apiece, it's 6 bedrooms. You could get one of them each. You could have 6 ex-felons, or you may have a commercial building that you could house them in. For an example, I own a building called Redford Hospital. It's empty, it's sitting there. One of you may say, you know, I would like to be a service provider. Can we do a joint venture? It was a former hospital, have a lot of rooms. You know, it could be converted very easily into a place to help ex-felons, for an example. And there are other buildings that would be available. But you could host them as, you could rent to a service provider that would help them, or you could be the landlord and the service provider. Or you could simply lease from a landlord that owns it, and you could become a lessor. You could be a lessee, right, rather. A lessor is the landlord, a lessee is the tenant. You would become the tenant there, and then you would sublease to all of your ex-felons that would be in the room. Now, the state would pay about, you check it out, about $60 a day, a couple grand a month. You get your 6 of them, $12,000 a month. That's not so bad for rent. How much would it cost you to provide for them? And as I understand, you can negotiate different packages. In some cases, it may be much more than that. because of the services that you would provide. What the state would be looking for sure is that they become retooled, that they could become useful. Now just think about this. Right now the jails are very full and they're emptying out the jails because of the virus. Well, some of these people, you know, they have them temporarily at home. They are desperately looking for places. So this is the time to make the move. Now, don't make the move a year from now. If you're going to move, you move. Now, that's one. Ex-felons. Let's talk about the foster care aging out. When foster children, people who've been into foster care, when they age out of the system, they when they're 18, they have a choice. They can age out. They can say, I don't want to be in the system anymore, or they can remain a ward of the state for up to 5 years in the state of Michigan. Now, you can check your state and make that determination. Okay, Billy, I got it. So you can essentially, if you're a foster care, if you are in the foster care system, you can make your choice. I'm out of here. I'm on my own, or I'm going to stay in the system. Now, to my students, you can provide the opportunity for them to stay in the system. You have to give them a complete package now. That means that not only housing, but career development. What the ideal is that when they finish, that they would be able to take care of themselves. So a package might include a social worker with a master's degree. You have to be able to help them there. You have to have a career that you would have to help them develop their career. And you have to have medical, you have to take care of them. So you have three main areas. So here, the state pays $187 a day. $187 a day is $68,000 a year. So if you had 10 of them, you get your $680,000. I mean, this is tremendous. Now, you're not going to have them two to a room. Let's understand that. This is not going to be an institutionalized deal because they've been like that their whole life, and the state is not going to go along with that. They're going to have semi-independent living. They'll get rent themselves, and they got to teach and learn. They got to learn how to survive. They may all pool their money together and go buy stuff and they can eat for 30 days rather than go out and spend all of their check they get at McDonald's and eat it all up in 1 week and starve for 3 weeks. So they have to have survival skills and the like. Now, this is always a difficult thing for me to say. So let me see if I can say this without getting emotional, because I get emotional about this, and I'm going to try it. But there's approximately 1,000 young people that opt out of the system each year. And out of the 1,000 people, in the first 12 months, now listen carefully, in the first 12 months, they're either in jail, on drugs, homeless, or dead. Or dead. Can you imagine? I mean, these are young people that, through no fault of their own, they entered this system and now they bounce from place to place to place. You have a chance to change their life. So here you become a service provider and you help them. Now let's go to the third one, veterans, veteran care and development. The veteran department want a package too. And they're great. I mean, you know, they will help their veterans. The veterans is enrolled in a school program, which we're currently negotiating. And in veterans, some of you aren't veterans, and you're going to come into our program or be reimbursed. And you'll get a computer. They'll pay for the tuition and all of these things if it leads to a job. And what's better than a job to show you how to acquire real estate and become independent? Now, that's quite a deal. Financial independence, that's what we take you. From where you're at now to financial independence. That's what our goal in life is. How about if you're homeless? Homeless people, they're taking them off the streets, putting them into hotels all over America. San Francisco, I understand, they took out 15 or 5,000 hotel rooms, was it? And to get the homeless off the streets, because for sure they're going to die. You know, you could be homeless on the street, you could live in a mansion, but just because you live in a mansion, you know, you're still one of God's children. And life is precious no matter who you are. And so we have to value life. And if you can take it and say, look, to the homeless, we're going to help you. Now, the state pays in Detroit area about $30 a day per deal. And for this $30, it's $900 a month. And you could get, you could house a couple. No. So you get, the ideal is that you would get 3 to a house, not 6 or 8 or pack them in. 2 is you need 3 to balance it out. You understand? And you got to make sure that nobody gets abused, because you could get some abusive personalities. Your job is to make sure that they get their meds. You check on them. The first of the month, you may have to run them around a little bit to the bank to get a haircut or something like that. But you just make sure they're mentally healthy, and you stay in touch with them, because some of them are mentally ill, but maybe not to a very acute degree. But you stay in contact with them. Now that's not so much. If you get you 5 of those, you get your house, you get your 3 of them. Now, the social services, human service, they are competing. There used to be a whole bunch of these service providers. They were getting $60 a day. And then the state cut it in half, put a lot of them out of business. Now, I know what you got to say, and it's true. If you talk to one of them, you say, look, this is nothing but a job. This is a hard-working job. It's not like you're making money. They say, I got a job. Yes, I got to take care of them. I got it every day. And some of them get exhausted, but if you love it, you would continue with it. But it is a lot of hard work. It's not a great profit center, so to speak. You understand? And then you have low-income housing. Low-income housing is, when I say low-income housing, we're talking about LIHTC, low-income housing tax credits. Now, that's a much more sophisticated game. And the good news I want to tell you, those of you all over the country, our students, is that we are going to create a model to acquire many of the high-rise and towers in your communities, because it's a perfect time. And I'm not going to talk a lot about it because it's a whole separate game plan. It's going to take me an hour all by itself to talk about it. But I will tell you that low-income housing is motivated by tax credits and tax write-offs. And after 15 years, people will have already written off these. So at that point, they want to get out of the deal, but they do have a tax liability. So if they donate the property to a 501c3, the amount of mortgage they owe and the market value sometimes give them enough tax write-off where they don't have any taxes to pay. And sometimes they can even have value over and above that. That's a tremendous thing. And the reason it's such a phenomenal thing now is that everybody's moving back to the inner city. Think about that. They used to live in the suburbs. They hate the suburbs. They are now moving back into the inner city. So that's a wonderful thing, to go back into the inner city. And so that has dramatically increased the values in the inner city. The thing about the suburbs, the problem there is everything is separated. The housing is here, the retail is here, the office is here. In the city, you walk outside and everything is there at one time. It's a wonderful feeling for you. You know what I mean? And then the other thing that I want to suggest to you is what we would call seniors and retirees. Now think about seniors and retirees. That's a wonderful thing. Seniors and retirees have income already, and they're not really impacted economically by this virus. I mean, they have to stay home, but their income is the exact same income before. So, but what's the deal? The rent might be lower. Yes, the rent may be lower, but it's more stable. They're going to pay. The last acquisition one of the students did, the rent was $100 less, but everybody pays every single month. And so to go over this, we have talked about strategies. At this time, the best strategies today is to help people that are disenfranchised. And we've talked about ex-felons, foster care, veterans, homeless, low-income LIHTC deals, and seniors. Amongst this category, you can pick someone, you can pick one of these categories. Don't do them all. try to, instead of going horizontal, go vertical. That means become an expert in it. So you don't have to do it all by yourself. First, as we mentioned earlier, you're going to identify your relationship you're seeking. Is it as a lessor? In other words, you're going to be the landlord and negotiate with a service provider, because you may say, Herb, I don't mind being the landlord, but no, I do not want to be a service provider. You know, I'll be the landlord. Now, in some cases, you don't need a service provider. If you're talking about retirees that are just retired, living independently, you know, you don't need a service provider. But if you're talking about an ex-felon or foster care, yes, absolutely, there are service providers needed. You could, you're seeking agencies, private and public agencies that would be service providers. Public agencies, the governmental units that fund these, you need to identify them. You need to invest some time in identifying them. And who are the service providers? Now, this is like identifying them. And then you're going to need, what else you're going to need? Let's say that you have the skills, and what I am trying to tell you is what you need is the skill set to do this. If you don't have any money, if you've been out of bankruptcy, just coming out and you don't have credit or money, but you got the skills, that's all you need. You got to have credibility too. So if you have the skill set that you can put a deal together, you could find someone that would take and invest in the deal. That's not a hard thing to do. If you put the skill set together and you can borrow 100% of the money that you need, who in their right mind would not invest with you, long as they trust you, and long as the deal is a good deal. Now, if you give a sucker deal, they're not going to do it, and the lenders are probably not going to loan on it. But get a good, solid deal that's well put together, it's not hard to find investors. And there's a really good reason for it, too, especially in urban areas. And I'll tell you what that reason is in a minute. But guarantors, partners, and investors is what you're looking for. Guarantors, people that will stand behind the mortgage. Partners that will bring something to the table. Maybe they're in the construction business. Maybe they're a property management business. And investors, people that have a balance sheet. They may or may not put cash in, but they got a balance sheet. If they got the balance sheet, that's what you need. Because you may or may not have a balance sheet. If you find it a good deal and you brought it to us and it needed $2 million, we'll joint venture with you. You go find the deal. If we like the deal, if it's $5 million, we'll come up with the cash. So to the extent that I don't have that money in my account, believe me, I have partners that would have the money. So here's the point I'm trying to make. You don't have to have the money. You have to know people with the money and have to have relationships. I don't have to know the president of the United States. I can know somebody that knows the president of the United States. Now, we won't get into Donald Trump. We won't get politically here. Let's leave that alone now. But the whole point, when Obama was in office, you know, we were pretty good. I was all around them. We had great relationships with people that had relationships. Now, I got the picture and I got the handshake and I wrote out the checks and all of that. Yeah. And I've talked to him. It was cool. You know what I mean? But I didn't have the cell phone. You understand? But I knew people that had the cell phone. You know, and if I needed to get to him, I could. So if you got a deal and you need to get your deal together, you got a telephone, and you got my phone number as the coach, and that's the job I play. You understand? And I got a hell of a Rolodex, believe me. And the people that I call would not have to call anybody. So now you got your game plan. You figured out who you want to help. You figured out what role you want to play. Now you have to take and get ready. So you create your vehicle. What kind of vehicle are you going to create? A LLC? Now, if you're a 1099 employee and you don't have an LLC, I don't know what to think. You have got to have an LLC, and we'll help you with that. Just get a hold of us. You know my phone number, 313-407-4930. Say it, 313-407-4930. You hold on to that for dear life, because when you need me, you'll call me. How about a family LLC? Now, we're going to dive into the creation of entities, but I just want to spark your thoughts on it. Do you need to pass this on to your grandchildren, to your children, to your legacy, a family LLC, you include them in the family LLC. And what role are you going to play? You're going to control it. You may only own 1%. And Tanisha, Gary, Alicia, Monica, all of them can own the rest of it. Your 1%, you could take 100% of the depreciation if you want to, because you would be the party at risk to be your capital, and they would be in there. So you can allocate profit and losses based on what a person's responsibility in the LLC is. But you may have people that's after you. I'm not trying to be funny, but you know, you may say, look, I own 1% and my kids own the rest of this, and it's a poison pill. If I ever get a judgment, I automatically am wiped out and it belongs to them. Those are called poison pills. In other words, no matter what your circumstances are, if your heart is right and you're trying to do the right thing, you know, you may have been involved in the Great Recession. You may have made mistakes like everybody makes mistakes. And you're talking to your coach that dropped $90 million and I was 20 million under. Why? Because I refused to default. I refused to stop making my mortgage payments. I never defaulted. Well, you know, maybe if I had stopped a long time ago, I would have not dropped 20 million, but that's okay. I said, I've been to this movie before. And I turned around and we bought most of the stuff back for partners for 10 cents on the dollar and came out of the hole. That was quite interesting. Now, so people do make mistakes, but you can't give up. So you got to take your skill set and you got to put something in your head and invest in yourself and learn the skills. That's all you need is the skills. And with the skills, you can take and get everything else you need. You know, it's like, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all of these things will be added unto you. Now, you know that, right? So seek to help someone first. You know, come with an honest heart. Don't come off how much money can I make. Don't ask me that first. You know, what's the need, Herb? I mean, what's this, what's this? And if there's something that makes you cry, do that. Do that. You can make a lot of money at it and do it. You know, I'm a youth advocate. I love the young people and to help them. I thought the per diem was $30 a day. I was doing it. And I found out it was $187 a day. I fainted. Now, that $187 a day, you could spend $180 a day providing the services, depending on how you do it. But if you find other like-minded people that want to help, you may spend $100 a day. You might make $80 a day per student, and you have a whole bunch of students to do that. So we have a family LLC, we have an L3C. And what is an L3C? It's a low-income limited liability company, a low-income limited liability company. And it's a limited liability company that offer services to people. It would be the service provider. If you have a low-income limited liability company, it's not meant to get rich, but you could accidentally get rich. Like, for example, it said, I'm going to do affordable housing in the inner city. But the inner city turns into a hot spot with millennials moving in. Like you go down in a place called Cass Corridor in the city of Detroit. 4 or 5 years ago, you're going to develop that because that's the hood. But now it's not the hood anymore. It went up 500%, 5,000%. What cost 10 grand is no longer 10 grand. It's 100 grand, it's 200 grand, it's 300 grand. As a matter of fact, the greatest story I heard is one of my students who bought 2 lots for $150 a piece. That was $300, and he got $200,000, and he invested $300. That's about the greatest story. Now the city owned the rest of the lots, and so once he sold them those lots, they were able to take and develop that, and it was a very critical and crucial lot. I told him to take 150. He didn't listen to me. He got 200. Now, I still think he should have took the 150, by the way, because people could say, I will remember you and don't you ever come back. You understand? Those people that over leverage the city and hold them over, and they say, okay, we'll pay it. But they got your name, you understand? So don't be too greedy. 501c3, you know what that is? That's a nonprofit with a tax exemption. And it could be 501c3 or C4 or C6. Study it, find out. We could create all of these entities to you in 21 days. We could get you whatever you want. But you got to have the appropriate entity. Now, a 501c3, you know, that owns a L3C 100%, can own an apartment building and be 100% tax exempt. Wouldn't that be something? So if you created your 501c3 to buy apartment buildings, affordable housing, Section 8, and all of that kind of stuff, that would really be something, because you could then, your role could be as a guarantor. You could do a participating promissory note. And when I say participating promissory note, you may own 1% of the membership interest, but you may have a participating note to take 50% of the income or 90%, or you could have a 1% interest with a convertible participating promissory note that you could take up to a greater percent. You may have your 3 children in there, and one of them get a divorce, and their spouse decide that they want some of it, so you just take that interest over until they on the other side of the water. You would have a poison pill in there. You would automatically take the interest. You could convert your participating promissory note to live interest. Now, I know I'm stretching you all a long ways, but I want to give you things that I want you now to research. You could look up, you could type it in, just type it in, L3C. It's in 26 states right now. No, I'm sorry, 16 states. It was in 20. So I don't know exactly. There were some other states considering it. Type it in. I'm not exactly current within the last 90 days how many states it's in. See if that's in your state. It's in Michigan. And a L3C allow a foundation to invest and get a return. Now, what does that mean? A foundation, the Kresge Foundation, the Ford Foundation, they have to give away a certain percent of their assets each year. If it's 5%, and they seek charitable initiatives to put this money in, they don't get the money back. They give it away, they donate it. But under a L3C, they can invest in it, so to speak. They can put the money in and give it back. So that's really something. Now, that's still being tested and tested and tested. But it is a great vehicle, and we think in the future it's going to be more and more and more useful. And then you can also just have a nonprofit. So, and I mentioned a minute ago about Section 8. I probably skipped over that when I was talking about low-income housing, but obviously Section 8 is a key part of it. It's affordable housing, it's low-income housing, it comes with Section 8. But notice all of those things that I've told you about, these strategies of helping people, all come with governmental support. Isn't that interesting? The things that you would help people with come with support also. You understand? Now, the retirees, I mean, they get Social Security, of course, but many of them have their jobs they've worked their whole life on too, so. But the things that help the people are the things that are the most secure in this time and age. Well, sometimes you almost think that, how God put all of these things together and line them up. So you don't want to do what he says, so he'll hook it up where you do what he say anyway, right? It's very interesting, very interesting. So you want to identify your partners in these entities. And then, so here is the final piece. You want to invest your time and resources to get the necessary skill set you need to succeed. So if you want to go with, if you want to help the ex-felons, for an example, you're going to research the problem and that you want to solve. You're going to do research there. And then you're going to research the programs that are available. What programs are available? How much the government is going to pay in the per diem? If you're going to go for low-income housing, what is a choice voucher? It's the same as Section 8. What is a low-income housing tax credits? How do they work? You got to, if you're going to take and help the aging out, you've got to and the interesting thing is all at your fingertips. Just type it in. Aging out program. Type it in. Look at it, read it, research it. You don't have to even hardly ask me, Because you know what I'm going to do when you ask me? I'm going to type it in, and I'm going to say, this is what it says. He said, oh, thank you, coach. You can do it yourself. It's not that hard, believe me. So search best practices. What is the best practices? What do other people do that's down the street and around the corner in your city? How about on a national basis? How about on an international basis? What is the best practices on an international basis? And here's the other question. What are you going to add to it that make it uniquely yours? What is going to be your unique? And I want to say unique because it is unique. What is your unique contribution? I'm calling you. The world is waiting on you to make your unique contribution. So that's a wonderful thing. And I just want to repeat it and just go over everything real quick in just 5 minutes. And I'm going to review everything that I just told you. So I told you, now I'm going to tell you again, just a real quick recap. These are great times to buy under the right strategies. And the reason why is challenging times have created low interest rates. Many people are unable to pay rent. So therefore, the properties have depreciated value. The cap rates have increased. Therefore, the sales prices have decreased. Government lenders are motivated to lend, though. And this is a buyer's market. There are 3 categories of people. There's those who will do nothing, that will sell their assets and run scared. There's others that will just freeze and just not do anything. And that those who are optimistic realize that the sun and the moon and the stars have aligned and that you have a purpose in life and you're going to go for it. And what are the steps in these times? What are challenging? Is to go for the double bottom line. That means helping others. So you're going to write down your legacy. I mean, you're going to write down your goals. And many of you will have a legacy goal. And that legacy goal could start when you're 30, when you're 40. I started building optimist clubs more than 40 years ago. I built my first optimist clubs in the 70s, and I built 150 clubs, and I built them because it saved my life. And I built them, and I've given away millions of dollars, and I've given away 3,100 scholarships. Now, I'm not here to brag, you understand, and all of that kind of stuff, but you don't have to wait till you're 60 years old. You could be 20 years old and start your legacy if you know what you want, if you found something that you're thoroughly committed for. So here I'm supposed to get through this real quick. Let me get through it. So you're going to help others. You're going to determine what your role is going to be. Are you going to be the developer, the landlord, or the service provider? That essentially is what we're saying. Are you going to own the real estate, or are you going to be the service provider? Because many of these things that you're going to do is going to need to have service providers. And what are some of these things? Ex-felon opportunities and retooling. They're coming out of jail. The state is going to pay a lot of money to house them. There's an overwhelming demand now to house ex-felons so they don't have to go back in jail and die. Now, some of them may go back in jail because of the virus, and they say, we're going to let you out temporarily. But here's a chance. They're going to come out, become a model student, they may stay out. Foster care. The people who are aging out of foster care, give them a shot. Instead of aging out, come and join us and stay in the system and let us retool you and help guide you to a successful life. You have to put the team together. You got to get the medical doctor, the psychiatrist, the social worker, and the career developer. And you got to help them to get to where they want to get to stable ground. The veterans, people that have died, they're psychologically damaged, and you would too if you went through what they went through. Hundreds of people killed, shot, murdered, your friends. And now, you know, they have to survive in this society. So we got to help them in this transition. And then you got people that are homeless. You want to take and help them that are homeless, that have had a difficult time. Because many of us would be homeless but for God, but for the sake of God. Many of us would have been in jail. And if you look back at your life, I bet you've done something that if you got caught, your butt would go to jail. It could be something simple. You know what I'm saying? You could have had too much weed on you. Oh, you got busted. The police got you and they zapped you and they're going to put you in jail for 30 days. And all of a sudden in 30 days, you did something you shouldn't have did and you end up with 6 months. Then you end up with a year and all kind of crazy stuff. But for the love of the Lord, you know, and I say, but for my mother's prayers, you understand? So low income housing, that's Section 8, That's LIHTC deals. And there's also the senior citizen housing. So there it is, ex-felons, the foster care, the veterans, the homeless, the low-income housing, and the senior citizen. Pick one. I may have left off one or two, but I think we pretty much got a really grasp. Now, I mean, there are other things like, you know, there are girls that are pregnant that need help. I mean, there's still a laundry list of others that could help, but the main thing is help someone. You understand? They need help because here you get a chance to do the greatest good and the most secure. They both go together now. They come together. Look at that. You understand? Because you want to hang on something that you're going to get paid for, something that you're going to be able to survive. You want to help, but you don't want to get burned and go under. So what is it? And the Lord said, go help somebody. You said, okay. And don't say, well, which one pays the most money? No, 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 no. Say, what is it that needs help? And this is what I like. And then research and see how much that works. And then you're going to identify partnerships. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Hell, you may not know a damn thing about ex-felons. And when I say ex-felons, it's not just necessarily the guys. How about the ladies? They got to have places to stay. You got to help these girls. How about these pregnant teenagers? You got to take and find partnerships, people that want to do this. Because somebody may want to do it, but they may not have the money. You may have the money to do a housing project, but you do not have the skill set to help them. Partnership, you can find it. It's all online. And guess what? Once you find it and you have it and you pray about it, it's a magnet. It'll just come to you just like that. You say, this is an amazing thing. The coach told me about this. It'll come to you. You understand? And so, and then there's funding, governmental funding, veteran affairs. And then you're going to create your entity. What kind of entity you're going to have? You're going to have a LLC, a family LLC, a L3C, a 501c3, a nonprofit. You're going to create the entity that you're going to have. And that entity is not only going to be based upon who could better provide the services, but also what kind of wealth transfer agency you're going to have. Now, you may have a 501c3 that is a service provider, and you may have a family LLC that owns real estate. Maybe, you understand, or L3C. Or you may have a 501c3 that is a service provider. You may have a LLC that has a participating promissory note because it cannot own title to it, to something. Maybe the 501c3 have to. And you could just participate because you offer things like a guarantee, construction, management, or whatever. We're doing a deal right now where 501c3 is buying the property, and one of the students is offering management services. They're advancing them the cash required to close the deal. They're going to do the construction, and they are providing a guarantor to help them get the mortgage, and they're going to take 49% of the cash flow. That's cool. Look at the 501c3. It's not going to pay any property taxes, so it creates a gusher. Brand new cash flow, and it's not going to get hurt that much because all of this, hell, property taxes is 10% of the income, of the gross income. And you don't have but a margin of about 10 or 15% anyway, so you almost double the income if you don't have to pay property taxes. Look at that. So the 501c3 don't get hurt. And the person who's providing the guarantee get the money they would otherwise. It's a win-win. Seek a win-win. And then do your homework, and then invest in yourself. Some of you are maybe guests that are listening to this, and you're wondering whether or not you should jump in and you should take Strather Academy class. Well, we have one person on the line, and because I am recording this for you all to listen to at any time you want. But Georgetta, you're on the line. Would you like to make some comments about Strather Academy? What do you think, dear? Oh, no, you have to turn it on. Go ahead.
Okay, I had to unmute myself. This is, it's been great. It really has. For the small amount of time that I've been here, I've learned a lot. And Mr. Strather, you are just a godsend. You really are. I can't wait to get started.
Thank you so much. Now our class starts in May the 11th, and the ideal here is that we're taping all of these courses anyway, so you could join in at any time and watch. But Georgetta came in a little bit earlier, so she's attended some of the classes already. And so she's excited about being in the class. Georgetta, you've done your assessment already. You've set your goals and you're getting ready, right?
Yes, I'm getting ready.
Right. So are you looking to retire soon, Georgetta? You're still young, of course.
I
Huh?
am. I am.
All right. So have you figured out pretty much what you want to do?
I want to do what the real estate. I want to do this. And something you mentioned, I've been emotional about. So I'll tell
Okay.
you later. I know what I want to do already.
Well, that is really good. So you want to share it later?
I want to share it later.
Okay, you can do that.
I don't
Okay.
want to cry about it.
Okay, then. So listen, here's the other good thing. Once you lay out your goals and you know what you want to do, you get an hour with me. 1 hour to share your goals so I can personally coach you.